What's Your Work Fit is sponsored by Hudson Davis Companies. Start your brand's marketing and communications journey today at hudsondaviscommunications.com and hudsondaviscreative.com. I'm Dan Smolin. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit? So that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day, everyone. To all my viewers across North America and around the world, welcome to What's Your Work Fit. We've got a great show today. Before we get to our amazing guest, I have an ask. And that is, if you submit a future show question and we pick it, we will send you this embroidered What's Your Work Fit cap. It's made in the United States, high quality. I'd love to send it to you. Here's the thing, you've got to send a question to me and we select it for a future show. Easiest way to do that is dan@dansmolin.com. Okay, let's get to it. I am so pleased to welcome to the podcast Amina Moreau from Radious. Hey there, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, let me make a little introduction about you, Amina. You are the CEO and co-founder of Radious, an online marketplace that turns houses, apartments, and other residential properties into collaborative workplaces that are rentable by the day.
That's right.
So we have a question for you, and it was posed by one of our viewers. Her name is May. Hey, May. May recently has been granted remote work privileges by her company. The when and how it all happens is a work in progress. But here's the problem. May lives in a shoebox, an apartment that she shares with her partner. It's about a total combined square footage of 400 square feet, which I think rivals what I had for my first college dorm single.
Yep.
So there's no, you
Been
know
there.
this, there's no place in her apartment to do head down work and
Yeah.
be collaborative in real life. And further, she wonders, is there some place where she could go days to work that isn't designed like the typical co-working space arrangement? And she
Yeah.
asks you the question, how can I remote work from my home? So Amina, talk to May. How can she co-work,
Yeah.
do her work
Isn't
rather,
that
remotely outside the home?
outside that? Yeah. And isn't that such a common problem? We don't often think of it because a lot of people that are making remote work policies have big enough houses that they can get work-life separation that is a little bit healthier. But you know what? I'm in my home office right now. And it is a private room. It is separate from my bedroom, from the living room, from the dining room. And I still have to get out of here from time to time just for my own personal sanity. So to live in a 400 square foot place with a partner on top of that, that can really strain the relationship as well.
Yeah.
And I think I really love this question, Dan, because for a long time, the conversation has been about this all too binary traditional office versus work from home. And I think most of the world was equating work from home to remote work as a whole. And I think it's fair because for the majority of the pandemic, remote work was synonymous with working from home because at the time, that's all we could do. We were forced into lockdowns.
Right.
And so they were actually one and the same. But now that we're on the other side of it, well, working from home is just one slice of the pie that represents remote work. If you define remote work as being away from a traditional office. And to me, that opens up an incredible menu of options that offers diversity to the diversity of preferences and needs that we have in the workforce. We keep seeing in the headlines that there is no one size fits all solution, and yet how many companies are enforcing one size fits all solutions?
Right.
Or maybe two, the office versus working from home. And this is such a great question because it illustrates how it's not the be all end all for everyone. And so I would say that depending on your circumstances and also depending on the particular workday that you have, it could be as simple as going to a coffee shop. Coffee shop is relatively inexpensive. You're going to pay a few bucks for a cup of coffee, and then you can sit there pretty much all day. So there are some clear upsides. You're going to get that work-life separation. It's probably close to home, so you're not having to commute. Of course, on the other hand, it's probably packed with other remote workers because they've had the same idea, which on one hand can bring you some much needed social interaction, but on the other hand means that the Wi-Fi is probably going to falter at some point. It means that it's hard to have a private conversation. If you're doing a Zoom call and you're talking about something sensitive, and you don't have that privacy. And so, you could go to a library, you could go to a co-working space. As Radious expands across the country, you could go to one of ours. And what I'm extremely excited to be building with this new platform is effectively the best of working from home and the traditional office and the coffee shop and the co-working space all in one place with very few of the downsides that I just mentioned. Because if you're renting your neighbor's house or their apartment when maybe they're not home, or an ADU in the backyard if you're in a more suburban area, then you can go there by yourself. You can invite a friend if you don't want a solo work day, and you can get far more privacy than you would have in a coffee shop or a co-working space, but still have that work-life separation. But the beauty of it is that there are so many options to be doing it. And usually if you're living in a 400 square foot shoebox, it's probably because you're in a metropolitan area. And those have a ton of options, like maybe on the same block.
I think May lives in the New York City area, and that would explain everything. And I think living I live in 1,200 square feet with my wife. She's got a side hustle. She's selling vintage clothes. That takes up a lot of space. We are on top of each other. And can you imagine when my daughter was home during the pandemic, so it was 3 of us, and at the time 2 dogs. It was interesting. Here's the absurdity of it, and I know you live in Portland, and I got to make fun of Portlandia, but this is a famous episode where they had the tiny house, and one character says to the other, "Hey, how's your novel coming along?" He's sitting on the toilet in his office. Really great. I'm sorry. I had to throw that in.
You know what, though? It's not just Portland. I mean, how many people can relate?
So let's talk about Radious.
It's so common.
I've heard it likened to, what if you could take the best of Airbnb and fashion it for people who want to work intentionally outside of a co-location? And I happen to see some of the photos that I scooped up off your site. This is just beautiful. So what's the experience like for a career professional who rents space by the day with one of your partners?
Yeah. It's a great analogy. Sometimes we like to joke that we're like Airbnb and WeWork had a baby.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
we basically find properties in your neighborhood,
Hmm.
mostly residential properties, because we want these to both be close to home for you, but also have all the comforts of home and have a more unique experience than you would just going to a typical corporate office. And so when we're working with our hosts, we're looking for properties that have really great workplace amenities, and that's where the WeWork or the co-working part
Hmm.
of the marriage comes in, because
Hmm.
we're renting out these spaces like Airbnb just by the day instead of overnight, but we're making sure that they have the workplace amenities that people need to do their best work. Some people, I'm kind of one of them, really love having a sit stand desk. I'm sitting at my desk right now, but
Hmm.
an hour from now, I'm going to be standing. My physical therapist, when I was having some back pain, when I was talking to him about posture at, for my workday, he said, your best posture is the next one. You always want to be moving, whether you're
Right.
up, you're down, your leg is up on a stool, you're crouching, you're kind of walking in a spot. You always want to be moving. So we've been really conscious to work with our host to have things like sit stand desks and external monitors and even like things that make your workday more ergonomic, but then also things like meeting tables in case it's not just you and you want to bring 5 other people to either co-work with, or you're part of a company team and you need to do a brainstorm and you want to be all in one location, but maybe
Hmm.
you don't have an office or this is just more convenient for you. So, going back to your question about what the experience is like, it really just depends. And that's sort of the beauty of it, because
Hmm.
variety is the spice of life. So
Right.
if you're just looking to get some work life separation, then you might rent a tiny home or an apartment that's just been very well equipped for work. But if you're doing a company offsite with 15 people, then you might book a really large property that has some outdoor space and maybe has a kitchen so you can either order lunch in or maybe make cooking lunch a team building exercise. And so it's really exciting to think about, because with residential properties, if you outfit them properly for work, you can do way more with them than you can do at a sterile hotel conference room, for the day, or a co-working space where, you might have beer on tap and ping pong, but that's about it.
And it is an investment. And I think it gets to Glenn's question, which he says, great idea. And I'd love working this way, but how do I convince my boss to pay for it? Um,
Yeah.
we often talk about the cost versus the investment aspect of the workplace.
Yeah.
This is an investment to me for all the reasons you just said. Yes, you can do head down work, but you could also have face to face collaboration in real life.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
how do how do you guide your consumers, if you will, your guests, to frame the value proposition for their bosses so that they're invested in it?
Yeah. There are a few ways. First of all, booking any type of office solution, Radious or otherwise,
Hmm.
in an on demand fashion is almost always going to be cheaper than signing a lease. And you can tell your employer that by doing this, they're never going to pay for unused real estate ever again. How many companies are so frustrated right now that they have this huge office space and it's sitting there empty 80% of the time, because even on the mandated 2 days a week that they're forcing people to come in, maybe only a third or half of the people actually come in. And if you do the math, those companies are paying for that office space 7 days a week, but are having maybe 15, 20% utilization. Like it doesn't actually make economic sense. And as we go into kind of turbulent economic times right now, cost savings are definitely top of mind. So
Hmm.
going with a flex option like Radius or otherwise is actually going to save companies a lot of money. The
Hmm.
second point, and this is piggybacking off of what you said, is that it absolutely is an investment. And so we're not arguing it's an investment and it's going to cost more. It's an investment. You're going to get ROI and it's going to cost you
Right.
less. And the way that I think it's an investment is that it gives your workforce the tools they need to do their best work. Because let's take that person with a 400 square foot apartment.
Right.
She can probably do it for a little while. But things like burnout and repetitive use injuries and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, those don't happen overnight.
No, they
Those
don't.
accumulate over time. And sometimes they sneak up on you without you even realizing until it's too late and you have an anxiety problem and you don't even know where it came from. So you can't
That's
even
right.
blame it on the apartment or the conditions. But now your productivity has dropped.
Exactly.
Your work satisfaction has dropped. Your health has dropped. And that has huge implications. I mean, of course, you've got to care about the individual and their well being. But going back to the employer who cares about that, and the good employers genuinely care about that because they're good people. But of course, they also care about the bottom line. And if your people are unhappy, dissatisfied, unhealthy, they're going to be less productive. They're going to be less innovative. And how many articles have we been seeing about, the value of productivity and innovation? And so,
Right.
but then recalling people back to a traditional office to try to combat those pain points, I believe is also short-sighted because
Mm-hmm.
people don't want to commute. They don't want to be forced into anything after 3 years of freedom. And why would you do it if it cost you so much?
We all
I
had a
just don't
Rosie the
get
Riveter
it.
moment during the pandemic. We all did. We all learned we can do stuff that we didn't think we could do, nor did anybody give us permission to do. We
Right.
crushed it remotely. Our productivity went up.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
It
we
did.
we made work a part of a day doing other wonderful things. People got pets.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
went on walks. They had intentional time with their families. They went to their kids'
Mm-hmm.
soccer games. And
Yeah.
the quality of
People
life,
replaced the commute with going for a walk. They still got that transition time, but
right?
now they weren't burning fossil fuels and they were getting exercise. How awesome is that?
And to the headcount manager, they were crushing their deliverables usually. The productivity went
Exactly.
up, and they were actually working longer hours and working different hours. You can't do that in a
Yeah.
co-location.
No.
And it's an old construct. And oh, by the way, I do watch the business news every day. This
Mm-hmm.
thing with unused commercial space that's been leased out is probably going to crush some aspects of the economy worse than anything anybody had even imagined. Regional
Hmm.
banks are the ones who are financing a lot of these properties. And
Yeah.
once we get past this and we look more to solutions like Radious, that provides
Yeah.
flexibility to hiring
Mm-hmm.
managers that they never had before, and agility,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes. I was having a really great conversation with Nick Bloom, economist from Stanford, who I think at this point is world
Pretty well
renowned
known.
for his
Pretty
research
known.
with
Yeah.
work from home and remote work. And he made a really great point about how smart companies pay a premium for agility,
Right.
for the flexibility to increase their resilience in tough times. And one of the beauties of a platform like Radius is that you're getting that agility and that resilience at a cost savings.
Mhm.
So the value that you would pay more for in traditional models, now you're actually getting to save money and get the benefits of the agility. And that's a big reason why I'm so excited about it, because what it does is it makes offering flexibility to your people and choice and empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it more cost effective and smarter for business. And so when social and environmental considerations align with profitability, that's when you get sustainable models. It's kind of sad, but that's how the world works. And that's a big reason I'm excited to be building this.
I want to point out your outdoor venue here. This is another example of a Radius-sponsored property. How
Mm-hmm.
important is it to be al fresco, to to be out in the
Mm.
elements, be out in nature?
Yeah. Totally. So actually, just this morning, I posted to LinkedIn a link to all of our outdoor meeting spaces. You know, the one that you have highlighted here in the image is
Yeah.
a little bit, it's like a coffee break location where, you know, you step outside and there's a table, there's a little greenery, but we've got beautiful backyard spaces that have a meeting table for 8 to 10. And you can, you know, bring out a couple of beers at happy hour, bring out your laptops, bring out a whiteboard, and either have a team building situation or simply a strategy meeting, but have it be outdoors. And the reason I posted it today
Mm-hmm.
is because for the first time in months, Portland has a stretch of sunny days and it's not blazingly hot. And
Mm.
it's the perfect weather to go outside. And so many people in 2019 or before would be, you know, taking PTO on a day like today to go outside and play. And now you don't have to. Of course, I'm all for going out and playing, but what
Me
if you
too.
can soak up that sun, get some vitamin D, get some fresh air, but actually have a work day at the same time, whether solo or inviting other people to be there with you. And um, you don't have those options at a traditional office, at least not to the same degree. Let's be outside, let's be healthy and not have to just assign that time to playtime. What if we could have it whatever hour of the day we want,
Yeah, and get that vitamin D, which is so critical to our health.
right?
So I want to ask RJ's question. RJ, I guess, would consider himself a potential prospect for a product like yours. He says the dining room in set he inherited from his grandmother. Oh, that could be someone's desk or conference room during the
Yep.
day. I'm intrigued. And on that point, I want to talk about the dining room. I grew up in the
Yep.
furniture business. The two least used places in a traditional home are number one, the living room, which, you know, that hasn't really had utility probably since my parents were raising me as a little kid. The second being the dining room. I had a nice dining room in the house I built and lived in for 15 years. I used it 4 times, two of the times for
Hmm.
Thanksgiving. So what
Yep.
happens? What value sets get created in the minds of potential hosts
Yeah.
when they look across their square footage and go, huh, that dining table that right now is storage for all my papers and doodads and everything, that could be usable, intentional space when I'm not
Yep.
here during the day, and somebody could be using the space to do head down work, to have meetings, to collaborate. Talk about the value of that, Amina.
Yeah. Imagine being able to supplement your income, subsidize your mortgage or your rent because you can just rent out your dining room table. I mean, you've never been able to do that before.
No.
And as housing prices and interest rates go up, who couldn't use a few extra bucks? And so, you know, we have some hosts who do live in the properties they rent out, and just like you said, they leave for
Mm-hmm.
the day because maybe they need some work life separation for themselves. But we also have some who don't live in the either properties or units that they rent out. Some people have like ADUs in their backyard that could be a perfect radius space for somebody to work in. And so I'll comment on both the dining room and the living room because
Okay.
we've found a way to monetize both. It is remarkable how easy it is to instantly turn a living room or dining room into a collaborative brainstorm space. You know what you have to do? Buy a whiteboard or get one for free from, you know, your neighborhood, Facebook Marketplace or
Mm.
Craigslist or something like that. It's the lowest hanging fruit because when groups tend to rent a property that has something like the table you're showing now that has
Mm-hmm.
seating for more than, say, you know, one or two people,
Right.
the assumption is that they are there for some collaborative reason.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you're collaborating on something, you need to jot down some notes. And so having a whiteboard in either a dining room or a living room will instantly turn it into a collaborative brainstorm space. And the second thing is presentations. This is one of those aspects that doesn't necessarily get a lot of attention in the news, but ad agencies, for example, are pitching clients all the time, either
Right.
ones that they're trying to bring on board or already have, and now they're presenting concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you either no longer have an office or you want to book a space that's closer to where your client is and perhaps have a more special, unique experience, then you book a house that either has a smart TV or a projector. Many of our properties have a projector with audio as well. And now all of a sudden, you've taken your living room that maybe you just use in the evenings to watch a little Netflix. Now you're monetizing it. And if adjacent to it, you've got a great dining table where you can do additional brainstorming and meeting, then all of a sudden your whole property is being monetized. Even better if you have an outdoor space where people can go out and have a coffee break and get some fresh air.
Mm.
So it's really quite exciting.
Um, kind of lost my train of thought here. Earl's comment was interesting. How important is super fast Wi-Fi? I mean, I remember when I moved to my house, we had dial-up lines. That's how I dialed
Yeah.
into my database, and now I'm at a gig usually. This broadcast today is running on about close to a gig of download and about 25 meg upload, which is pretty fast. How important is that
Yeah.
in the experience?
It's one of the most important things. Now, does it have to be ultra fast for every single property? No. It's highly contingent also on the size of your property and its capacity. If you're just hosting one or two people at a time and you find that your Wi-Fi works for yourself and doing Zoom calls and everything in your day-to-day, then adding one or two other people that might be simultaneously on a Zoom call probably won't interfere with the connection all that much. However, if you're inviting 15 people to your property, look, chances are they're going to be communicating with each other for the duration of that day, at least for the most part. But with almost all of our larger group bookings, what they love is the ability to break out and go into private offices if they do have to take a private call. And if you have 5 or 6 or 7 different Zoom calls happening at the same time from different devices, then eventually something's probably going to break down if you haven't upgraded your Wi-Fi. So that's a consideration. It also really depends on who your target audience is. Just like with a platform like Airbnb, as a host, you have control over how you market your space and how you position your listing for the types of people that you want to attract. And so sometimes we have like photo or video editors that book our spaces to do heads down editing work. Well, those folks are dealing with really large file sizes, and they might actually care less about download speeds and more about upload speeds because
Right.
they're transferring huge files to someone else at a different place. And so with our platform, you can actually filter search results by not just Wi-Fi speed, but whether that property has Wi-Fi and Ethernet, and by download speed and upload speed. And so as a host, you kind of just have to decide who am I catering to? But then as a working professional or a company, you have to be asking yourself, okay, how do we plan on using this space on the day that we have it booked? And have we really leveraged all the filters on the platform to make sure that the properties being shown to us are ones that are going to fit?
Interesting. Devin says he owns a townhome, but he's resisted doing the Airbnb thing. I kind of get that. I've met enough Airbnb hosts who tell horror stories. They actually have social media chat rooms about this. He says, what you're doing sounds interesting. And he said less wear and tear, which I thought was interesting. How would
Yeah.
I, as a property owner, work with a company like Radious?
Mm-hmm. First of all, let me just say I can relate because the whole idea for Radius was born out of my experience as an Airbnb host. And I was like, there are so many pain points associated with this type of overnight hosting. I don't want any of them. Can I get rid of them? And
Right.
thus, Radius was born. The origin story is a little longer and more
Yeah, yeah.
nuanced than that, but that's effectively how it started. And
Hmm.
Radius really does eliminate a lot of those pain points. The wear and tear is a huge one. Risk of parties happen at night. We're by the day.
Oh, no.
These are working professionals in your home versus some random traveler that wants to crash at your place. It has so. Oh, and no laundry, right? Laundry take how long does it take to do like 3 loads of laundry if you're renting out a townhome with multiple bedrooms and everyone slept in them and you've got towels and linens and goodness,
Wait,
no.
wait.
Just
A beach destination. And so everybody's
oh,
bringing sand into the apartment,
oh
right?
my goodness.
And the
Don't
cleaning
even.
service has to deal with that and get the unit
Yeah.
ready really quickly. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. And then you've got to pay them, right? With Radius, certainly there's some cleaning involved, right? You want to be sanitary, especially, if for anybody that's COVID conscious or even flu conscious. I don't want to catch even the common cold, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, of course there's some cleaning, but it's so much less work and hassle. And so, to answer your question, basically just email me or reach out to me on LinkedIn. So our first mission once we started building the platform was let's put together a host success team. Because at the end of the day, our
Okay.
hosts are our most precious asset. Without our hosts, we don't have
Right.
a product to sell. And
That's
and we
right.
really want to treat them like gold. So our first teammates to join Radius were Christy and Jules, who are our host success team. And they work with prospective and newest hosts to help set them up for success. They actually do a lot of the heavy lifting for listing creation to take time off your hands. And plus, we're talking to working professionals all the time. So we know how to
Right.
word things to make them really enticing. So, long story short, just get in touch and we'll hook you up. We'll make it super easy for you if you want to join.
What's exciting to me, I mean, there are two aspects. You've got homeowners who've got more mortgage expense. Hopefully, they got their mortgage locked in before everything went crazy. But then you've got apartment renters like me who, I've been in my place 6 years. We've had anywhere from 5 to 10 to 12% increases per annum. That adds up. This becomes an
Yeah.
interesting way to offset that living expense with something that's meaningful, right?
Yes. Yes. It's meaningful, it's also lower risk. And so if you have to negotiate with your landlord, it's much easier to say, hey, I'm going to rent this out by the day with Radius than I'm going to rent this out overnight with, an overnight platform. It's lower
Right,
risk for everyone. And I think some landlords, they don't like short-term rentals for that reason, the wear and tear and
right.
and the risk associated with it. And with this you have a lot less.
I can't imagine being an Airbnb host. We took our daughter to London. We rented an Airbnb in London. It was absolutely wonderful. Problem was on Christmas Day the drains clogged, and I had to
Mm,
call the property manager, and they came out on Christmas Day, which is a big deal in the UK. I can't
wow, yeah.
imagine the stress of that, and your experience to your host is so much different and so focused. It's actually quite exciting. Amina, I've been so excited about getting you on as a guest. This has been delightful and really interesting. Before I ask
Same
you
here.
my final question, I'd like
Hmm.
you to point our viewers and listeners to you. Where can they find you on social media? How can they engage with you?
Well, thanks for asking. I am most active on LinkedIn. I am on other platforms and you can find me there as well. But for the most part, I spend my time on LinkedIn. I love the vibe of it.
I do
And it's
too.
that perfect blend of personal with the business aspect. I actually really love the transition that LinkedIn has made from being all business to
Right.
giving us a window into who we are as people. I think the pandemic accelerated that a little bit, and
Yes.
it's heartwarming to see that happening on LinkedIn as well. But also happy, send me a connection invite, send me a DM through the platform, or reach out to me by email. It's just amina@radious.pro, and the spelling is a little funky, but I'm sure
It's on the
we'll find a
screen
way to take
under
care of
your
that.
name. radious.pro is your URL.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the question for you. And it's, one that I ask all my guests, which is, what's your work fit? What attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes your work part of your day doing many meaningful things and not your day? What's your work fit, Amina?
Yeah. It's definitely evolved. It's a bit of an introspective learning process. Uh, Look, here's a disclaimer. I'm a startup founder. So I'm not necessarily the epitome of work-life balance right now. But that's also okay.
Mm-hmm.
I live my life in chapters, and uh, I would almost call them multi-year sprints. Before Radious was born, I had a lot of work-life balance. I had built previous companies that had done well. I got to choose when I worked, and I got to do things like play tennis at 2 p.m. if I wanted. Right now, I'm not really able to do that nearly as much. And the way that I make this stereotypical startup lifestyle sustainable is, first of all, I exercise, and tennis is a almost an obsession for me. I've been doing it since I was 7. It's a mental health outlet for me. It's a social outlet. It's a physical health outlet. It's where I find my sense of peace. So I make sure to carve out time. It's usually in the evenings. It's after dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. As long as I can find great people, then it works. But as we talked about at the beginning of our time together today, I also have to get out of these 4 walls once in a while. I work best when I'm alone, with no music, no background chatter. I need quiet and focus, and you put me in an environment like that, and I'm going to be able to go for 12 hours straight. I will even forget to eat. Thank goodness I have a partner in the next room who will cook me lunch and just shove a plate in my face and force me to eat, whether I'm on a Zoom call or not. So grateful for him.
Nice.
But even this week, right? The weather is beautiful in Portland. There's no way I am staying cooped up in these 4 walls. I am going out, I'm renting a Radious space, and I'm going to be working outside. And
Wonderful.
I might book a space for just myself on one of the days, because I've got so much I need to get done and I can't have distractions. But on one of the days, I'm going to book one that makes room for other people to join me, so that we can connect. That connection is so important. I need that too. I'm an introvert, but I need it.
That's amazing. Amina Moreau, what a wonderful experience I've had with you, and I'm sure our viewers have had as well. I hope we can get you back on in a future episode. This has just been fascinating. Thank you so much.
This was so much fun. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.